After destroying David Lemieux in 3 rounds, Oscar De La Hoya, I do believe, says that Benavidez, David Benavidez, he misspelled his name with an S instead of a Z, but he says Benavidez is the best at 168 pounds. Congratulations on your win. That's what I'll talk about in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. David Benavidez, he annihilates David Lemieux. Now, I did a Boxing Ego watch party for the fight. The crowd looked great. It looked like an electric crowd. You see from this picture, David Lemieux, he had no choice but to shell up. Errol Spence even said, man, Benavidez is a bad MFer. And we know Errol Spence in his respective division, welterweight, he's a top guy. So the world of boxing is now talking about David Benavidez. Oscar, again, says that this man is the best current guy at 168 pounds. Listen, Ego Stradamus strikes again. I've always respected David Benavidez and used my platform to voice my opinion. And I told you, in my opinion, David Benavidez and David Morrell Jr. are the 2 best. So slightly different what Oscar's saying, since he just labeled Benavidez. And I said it's a tale of the 2 Davids. David Benavidez or David Morrell, they are the best at 168 currently. Now, if Jermell Charlo moves up, if Demetrius Boo Boo Andre moves up, you know, those are some great fights that they could rival, you know, anybody who's top. But as of right now, guys that are at 168 currently and have actually had a fight completed, it's between David Benavidez or David Morrell. You just seen another David, a tale of 3 Davids, in David Lemieux, and he's a puncher. He showed a ton of heart, but he really got destroyed in there with Benavidez. Now, the impressive thing about the performance is David Lemieux, he actually looked good and looked sharp and looked dialed in the first round until he got clipped with the left hook that buckled his knees, as you guys could see from this picture. And he made this look on his face where he was like, oh, what was that? Like completely out of nowhere. And David Benavidez from that point went on and stole the rest of the round because he almost stopped. And you could really argue that he was gonna stop him. And Lemieux was saved by the bell. So realistically speaking, no one would have been able to cry if David Benavidez got a first round knockout. So very impressive stuff because Lemieux didn't come to lay down. He tried his best to weather the storm, but it was the onslaught from Benavidez. The other thing that I liked about Benavidez in this particular fight was his patience. He showed it. He has a jab as well. And I've always told you that these things will give anybody, including Canelo Alvarez, issue. I mean, you got a guy who's big, you got a guy who's confident. You're gonna have to take that away from him. Like you can't take away his stature, his height, and you know, his long arms and things like that. He's been sparring with the best since he was a child. Guys like Kelly Pavlik. Do you understand how hard Kelly Pavlik hits? So guys like Kelly Pavlik, Kovalev, Jose Uzcategui, Gilberto Zordo Ramirez, who I've stood next to Zordo Ramirez. He's a big dude, you know, especially for those weight divisions. He's like a full 6'2.5" or whatever he's listed at. And Benavidez has mixed it with the best of them, either in the pro rankings or in sparring. Guys like Gennady Triple G Golovkin, who also can hit. And there's videos and stories about Triple G hurting cruiserweights, guys like Murat Gassiev or whoever else, right? So Benavidez has been holding his own for quite some time, which is why I put him up there. As far as David Morrell Jr., the other person that I put up there, his ranking or like my thoughts on him is premature because he only has 5-6 fights, and I tend to know what I'm talking about, I feel, after all this time. Even though he's on the fast track, you can see he's already too good for the level of competition he's been fighting. So I think David Morrell Jr. is like Jerron Boots Ennis at welterweight, where he's just gonna have to keep working, climbing up the ranks in the rating system till he gets the opportunity with a big name so he could prove it. In fact, David Benavidez's own promoter, Samson Lukowitz, said at the post-fight press conference, they're not truly worried about Canelo because the Canelo fight is more so a pipe dream. So they're saying, realistically speaking, fights that are more realistic, because Canelo may never fight Benavidez. He said Charlo, in no particular order, Caleb Plant, or David Morrell. So what does that say about David Morrell if a guy who just annihilated Lemieux and looked as good and sharp and spectacular as he did in Benavidez, if his name is being like thought of to fight Morrell, right? And it would be up to Benavidez to do like what Charlo did, Jermell Charlo did versus Erickson Lubin, where you got this hungry, slightly younger dude and he's like calling you out and he feels he's ready. It's up to Benavidez to show that he's not ready. So there are some great fights for Benavidez. This also puts Canelo in a difficult spot. As I've been saying, the walls are closing in on Canelo Alvarez. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxing Ego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new, interactive, and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. For starters, Canelo Alvarez just lost to Bivol. That's common sense if you know anything about boxing. And not only did he lose, it's how he lost. He lost very bad. Bivol spars frequently against David Benavidez, who also picked up and stayed winning and stayed undefeated and really sent shockwaves through boxing with that type of performance. You know, some people, they're going to now try to denigrate and say, oh, it's just David Lemieux and stuff like that. But I don't really recall somebody who just blasted up David Lemieux for every round, basically, except for the beginning of the first round. And then either way, he won the first round by nearly stopping Lemieux, right? Triple G, I think it took 9 rounds or so for him to stop Lemieux, whatever that was, etc. So in recent memory, David Benavidez like just annihilated him, got him out there quick. So it's the walls are closing in for Canelo Alvarez because Canelo's promoter, Eddie Hearn, was saying that Canelo could fight Usyk, a gold medalist at heavyweight. There were talks that he could fight at cruiserweight. Eddie Hearn, his promoter, said that Canelo is arguably the greatest fighter ever. They were putting Canelo on the pound-for-pound #1 list. And then now you have a guy like Oscar De La Hoya, who used to promote Canelo, and he's a gold medalist and had a storied, great career. That's Oscar De La Hoya, right? And De La Hoya is saying, in his opinion, the best person at 168 is David Benavidez. So what does that say about Canelo? Canelo played the politics game, and he fought everyone with a belt at 168. But the guy that had the belt, David Benavidez, he didn't fight. And the world knows this, and the world knows that Benavidez is now a 3-time belt holder and version of a champion. And this was an eliminator, and he passed with flying colors. So it looks really bad on Canelo Alvarez. Payday. You want payday? I know that. Like I've been telling you, because David Benavidez continues to ascend, and Canelo just descended in his last performance. And now people are saying Canelo's too small for 175. But guess what? All of his moves are now under a microscope, because if you go back down to, let's say 175 is a bridge too far, and that's the excuse that the Canelo Chupapi Muñeños and the Canelo Man fans are using, right? Okay, go back down to 68. What's waiting for you there? David Benavidez, who just looked like a force to be reckoned with. That's your WBC mandatory, where you're undisputed. So you're going to have to vacate or fight him or stall it out. Then you have David Morrell. That's your WBA mandatory. Then you might have Jermell Charlo and Demetrius Andrade possibly move up to 68. And those are guys you could have fought since 154. You could have fought them at 60. Now they're right there, still undefeated at the moment at 168. So that, or stay at 75, fight Bivol, that's a super dangerous fight. So as I see it, Canelo is very trapped. He's surrounded by dangerous fights. So if you go out and fight John Ryder's and 40-year-old Triple G's, we know what that's about. And it's hard to make the arguments that he's pound for pound #1 and the face of boxing if this is the path that you're exploring, when the world just watched David Benavidez ruthlessly, mercilessly, brutally baptize David Lemieux. So if that's the case and he just ravaged this man, David Lemieux, to win the Eliminator, and you have David Morrell Jr., who I fully expect to win his next fight, which is coming up at the Armory on PBC as well, Canelo's pretty well surrounded. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. I'm the best in the business. Y'all already know that. Subscribe. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation.